before the banner's even gone. I think the first thing that may have gone into the minds of each of you is that this guy sounds like he's in a different time zone from maybe all the rest of us. So, Peter, tell us about more than your time zone, but the sort of things that you're doing in the time zone where you are.
Well, it's probably not that different. I'm in Los Angeles. I'm in the Pacific
Yes.
time zone on the west coast of the US, although I sound like I could be -8 hours at the other side of the Atlantic. I'm not. I'm here in the US. And just very briefly, what I do, my day job, as it has been for the last 30, 40 years, is as a correspondent for the BBC. And I cover all of America from Los Angeles, occasionally from Washington, D.C. So that's been my career. I've made documentaries about science, human longevity in particular, hence my interest in that area. And the podcast is independent to the BBC, and it's where I can, in longer form, talk to people for an hour if I choose to, or longer, and really let a conversation breathe and get to the heart of the matter, as opposed to oftentimes in broadcasting where you're looking at 20-second sound bites and you don't always get the message that you want to get across. So that's what I do.
One of my favorite things that you said a few moments ago before we went live was that your preferred audience would be 20 plus. And I champion that. I have met so many people that keep me realizing that I am still biased, that I think of young people as not wanting that. Probably all of you have either heard or said it yourself to a younger person: enjoy while you're young. Boy, whatever you do, because when you get old, you just can't enjoy it. Or you've heard that, or you've seen it on a show or something. And here are these people in their teens and 20s who are actually going, I have interest there. Does that make me not qualify for listening to Peter's podcast? And he's going, no, I don't want you to wait until you are old enough to be ready for this information. Why not hear it ahead of time? Because you love someone who is challenged by what's going on in any of their decades, and you are part of what's going to be the future, and you are part of not just aging, but also making a difference in legislation, in hospitality, in medical, in innovations, in books. Oh my goodness, please know about your future and know about the future of those people around you, and make those differences when it might be a surprise to someone else. But I just keep meeting these people online, and I champion them and I connect them with each other. And so, yay, I'm all about that, Peter. I am so grateful that each of you carved out this time to what I call come to the table and give us your perspective on anything aging. I too use the word old in a positive way of just going, oh, now I'm old enough, or this person has more to, they've got more cards in their deck, or they've got more tools in their box. And also, if they say, I've been through that, they don't mean on a vacation. That might be that they've worked through something. I'm all ears for them. Nathan, I was thinking about when we first connected, and that I had also, again, a bias of like, so what is this device or whatever? And you were explaining the science behind balance. And that is important at any age, because it can go haywire for a lot of different reasons, medical reasons. But there's a lot more, because you are well versed in what you are doing. You're not selling a product that someone's trained you on for a week. You know your
Yeah.
stuff. Tell me
Yeah.
your
I
stuff.
kind of designed it, right? Which is,
Yes.
it's the realization that as we age, we learn to walk as an infant, right? And we reflexively move and we do all these things. And then during adolescence, we're climbing trees and we're doing all these things that actually maintain great learning and wellness. But as we age, we buy into this lie that our activity levels should somehow decline. And it really starts with the pension plans who sold older adults this idea of calming down and resting as we age, which is just total BS. There's no science to say that any of us should slow down. And, so keeping on moving. And so as we move less, our reflex for balance degrades with time because we stop practicing. We stop doing all these little random things in our day. We stop climbing ladders and doing all those things. And it's those little challenges that remind our brain, hey, next time you stumble, this is how you react. And then a few years goes by where we don't practice those things. And then suddenly the body goes, frankly, I forgot how to do those things. And so we're not prepared. And so older adults fall like trees. They don't even react. They don't even respond. They don't sense the fall. They don't respond to it. That's why older adults get black eyes and no one else does when they fall, right? Because they don't respond.
Gotcha.
And so what we decide to do is go, why? And part of it is no one wants to balance train. No one wants to go to the gym. Only 8% of American older adults are willing to leave their house for any wellness offering. But 100% of the wellness offerings live outside of the house. Does anyone else see a problem with that? And so we decided to go, hey, what can someone do in their own home? And what does someone want to do? Because it's about the wants in life, not the shoulds. No one does what they should. I'm not doing what I should right now, or I'd be running outside, right? And so, the want is right now, I want to spend time with you guys. And so we really looked at it and go, okay. And then the second realization that balance is a reflex means that it's much more about the brain than the body. And so as your brain starts to lose cognitive bandwidth, then you naturally fall. When you lose the ability to walk and talk, you're a faller. Which is why we have a test in medicine called the walk and talk test. Send 100 older adults walking. Ask them, hey, hold a conversation. All the people that stop walking to talk are all your fallers. Because we lost the ability to move and to think and be distracted at the same time, which is part of life. And so we retrain that. We retrain the ability to move while you're playing a cognitive game. Ipso facto, you then retrain the balance reflex. And we reduced fall-related medical injuries by 35% by playing this little game for 10 minutes a day on people's smartphones, which, by the way, is a greater outcome than 6 months of physical therapy. And so as a physical therapist, that's a really hard nut to swallow, right? Talk about pride hitting moment when we found that training people's brain and body together was more effective than sending a human being over to their house. It's just the reality. And so overall, I'm on a mission to show that aging's not less, because the minute we see it as less, we live less. And when you live less, you become less. And it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. There was a time and age where being older was a matriarch, was a patriarch of a family unit, multi-generational families. And you talk about not knowing how to be a caregiver. It's because we lost multi-generational awareness and connectedness. And so it goes way back. But in general, that's what I do. Is I decided to make balance training a game that people want to play. And darn it, we got a lot of people playing it. We have more people in Denver doing balance training than the rest of the country's evidence-based programs combined in the last year.
Very good.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. So all the normal things that younger people, they just do. Nobody has to train them to go and hang from that branch and see if they can go up, get any higher. Those normal things are being sabotaged by just the feeling of, if you're this age, you should be in a recliner. Why aren't you enjoying this time of your life by not getting up very much?
Well, Christine, it's even worse than that.
What?
Healthcare providers like myself, here's what happens when someone comes in. Hey, I'm having a hard time with stairs. And healthcare providers in their great wisdom say, well, don't do that. Avoid risk. You won't fall.
Okay.
No one ever fell just sitting in a chair. Hey, if that's dangerous. And so we actually encourage people to live less to avoid the risk. Avoiding risk is also known as avoiding skills, avoiding growth, avoiding joy. And so the national strategy to stop people and to keep them safe is to stop wearing nice shoes, to throw away your throw rugs, to add grab bars everywhere, to avoid stairs, and do all this stuff. And it's like, guys, do you understand what happens when you do that to somebody? Making someone less has never solved a disease. Aging is the only chronic disease that we treat by telling people to do nothing. How crazy is that? And then we're like, well, older adults, they don't move. Well, because we've been making them fearful of movement for a long time. That little pamphlet on how to avoid falls, you know, the very first thing it says, avoid risk. Do you know what risk does in your life? It trains you to tolerate it. Because you know what's outside of your house, there's risk everywhere. And if you sterilize your house and you add grab bars and you remove all the trip hazards, it's really interesting. Go to a skilled nursing home. Even the employees don't lift their feet. Perfectly healthy people, because there's no need to lift your feet. There's nothing to trip on. And as a result of that, even the young employees stop lifting their feet. So when they leave that environment, you know who falls? Nurses. It's hilarious because they're untraining something. Life is full of risk. You gotta take them. And that's successful aging.
Wow, 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 wow. Oh my goodness. Etel, you've just been smiling and your head's been moving. Tell us about you and definitely any of your responses to what you've heard so far.
Well, I'm learning. I really, really appreciate everything that everybody's saying. I love that. I'm the founding president of the International Caregivers Association. And I did some research in 2015 on using energy medicine to reverse or improve people living with Alzheimer's, a condition that we know is quite severe. And we were successful in all our participants. We had participants from France to California. It's also published on LinkedIn, my 2 articles, 2 of those cases I published. But also in the meantime, over a 20-year period of learning, and my husband being my teacher, who lived with dementia for 21 years. I created a caregiver partnership agreement program that I'm just launching this month, which is internationally welcome as I'm just talking about it. So I have some commitments in India right now and in Scotland. It's going to be all over the world, but it's to change the way we care for people. A little bit like you just said, Dr. Estrada, simply that we don't look at Alzheimer's as a disease, or because a disease really is something that you can actually treat, a condition that you should be able to treat. We can't treat Alzheimer's right now. There's nothing for it. And so I want to change the medical model to a care social model so that they live better. Just a little bit like what you just said. Live better. Do things, don't just fade away. So my husband lived with that for 21 years. And because of this caregiver partnership agreement program that I was trying along as I was caring for him and showed me that it works well, and it changes life. As far as the books for Lorette that you were talking about, my husband was always an avid reader. But as soon as I adapted as he moved along, and as soon as he couldn't read anymore because it was too challenging, I had recorded books. And while he was listening to recorded books, I couldn't even talk to him. He was following the story and sometimes would stop me because I was interfering. And he was responding to the book, when they said, well, what do you think of that? And he would respond to it. So I think it's a matter of letting people live their life. There's much to be learned if we don't want to control anything, because actually, to tell you the truth, we control nothing.
Yeah.
There's nothing we can control. And so, Christine, you tell that.
Oh my goodness, I am so glad that what you did have control over, each of you, was being willing to just come here today and say what was on your mind, what has been in your past, what your endeavors are right now, how you view, because I hear words from different people and it's the same thing, but they have two almost like opposing perspectives, but it turns out there's more than one right. There's, that worked for your husband. And, it was like, oh my goodness, that his wife's voice, was it your own voice that was reading the book to him?
No. There were different voices. They were recorded, and that's a free service that people can. Yes, absolutely. They send a recorder and also a big book of books that you can get from the Congress here in the United States. However, I didn't just work with my husband. I worked with maybe at least 40, 60 other people that were in the same facility. So, and even with our research, we had a number of people in the research. So I wanted to test to see how it all works. What I found that was revealing to me is that not all family caregivers respond the same way, of course, to somebody with this kind of condition. Many are in denial. Some are really angry. And so in the book that I wrote, the Alzheimer's Coaching, taking a systems approach to creating a healthy or a friendly Alzheimer's, I have it right here. This is my book.
Yes, good.
The friendly system, you have to think about who do you have to work with and educate people, support them. And so in my Caregiver Partnership Agreement program, what I'm really promoting is teamwork. Teamwork with, and Nancy, I'm a dementia coach at the hub of the wheel, because the dementia coach is well-trained. I've trained some all over the world, certified them. They're well-trained to answer any question, face any situation. They're not afraid of anything. One of the things that we notice with dementia is that people are afraid. They're afraid to be hurt. And just like Dr. Estrada said, if you go with that fear, you're going to find it. You're going to look for it, you're going to find it. And you're going to be ineffective yourself and for the other person. So if anybody has questions, I'd be happy to entertain them.
Oh, I just love this. Laurette, in just a few moments, whatever has been bubbling in here, I just wanted to say hello to Helen Murphy and Christine Zeidzik and Victoria Lubriel McCullough, who are just drinking this in. I'm always, there's this little tinge where I go, oh no, I'm going to be going live. And then there's this other tinge that goes, oh no, what if nobody shows up? Well, Christine has already showed up in one of these several weeks ago. And look at all of you. And then I just go, oh no, this is only half an hour. It'll never be enough, never. So I'm so grateful for all of you listening and all of you who are sharing on screen right now. So Laurette, I've looked at your picture. I don't know if you're leaning against a tree, but you just look kind of wistful to me. Did someone just snap that picture of you and you thought, that expresses how I was when I was working on your endeavors? How did you end up with that picture? And please tell us all about you and things that you've been thinking about this morning. Today.
Well, as far as the picture is concerned, my daughter Ingrid, who is now a freshman in college, we ran out to the backyard because I was doing a presentation at Bryant University with their marketing students regarding a startup and just how you take something that's just, from the idea stage to the incubation stage and so forth. So honestly, I ran outside and it was around this time of year, and I'm realizing now how much grayer and how I need to replace the photo because that was during the beginning of COVID. So that's where the picture came from. So my photog was my daughter. But I really love this conversation because Dr. Lourdes, I love to look at her profile all the time on LinkedIn because I see the way she gives the testimonials and the recommendations for other people and what they're doing. And I love the mindset because it's like raising others, but it's also giving you insight into what they're doing and how they're doing it. And you think, wow, there are really creative people out there. There's so much thought energy around aging and dementia. And, as you were saying, Dr. Lord, about getting people to understand that you can live well and it's about care right now. It's not about a cure right now. It's about psychosocial support and it's about welcoming people back into the conversation when they feel othered. It troubles me when people talk all the time about diversity and and what divides us. I really believe that dementia in particular is a great leveler because it spares no one. Everyone is impacted in such a way that it's so life altering that you really do scramble for these types of solutions. Like Dr. Estrada was saying that, you really do have to utilize these things so you don't lose proprioception, you don't lose your physicality and your self-concept changes when you're unable to do some of the things that you did prior. And again, it all in the name of safety or in protecting, quote unquote, someone. I'm part of a group here in Connecticut to get the essential caregiver unfettered access to their loved ones in care. And what they focus on is that, really we are protecting these people to death with all of the keeping the families out and keeping people masked and keeping people, this is not political. I'm an unaffiliated voter and all that. What I'm trying to say is that we lose that connectivity as human beings. We lose that human touch when we're unable to meet in person. And, Zoom is great and it has its place, but I do believe that, my son is now 25. He's working in Boston and he says, Mom, this whole hybrid thing and this remote thing, it's not for me. I really need that in-person connection. And here's a young guy, he's 25, who doesn't want to, Zoom from his apartment or his house in Boston to across town where, his colleagues, they're all siloed in this way. And I just think that for humans, it's not where, where we're meant to be, what we're meant to be doing. I don't know that, what the long-term impacts will be, but I know that what I do is I want to give people, whether they're in a virtual setting or they're in person, I want to give people the catalyst for conversation, those visuals, those auditory cues, the sound of your voice, and to welcome you back into the human conversation. Just as I did when I taught younger kids and they were just entering, your intellect and your ability to understand outpaces your cognition or your skill level. Let's say you're just learning to read and write and enter the process. The same thing happens when you have a PhD or you've led this nuanced, beautiful life and you're older. Your cognition is no longer in sync with your intellect and your aesthetic and your all the things that made you you and all the things that, you've got your established preferences and all these wonderful things that, again, make you unique. So my goal is to give people materials and opportunities to visit and to have these, beautiful classic pieces of art and literature. If you're in a locked facility for your protection, you're not going to walk the halls of a museum ever again. You're not going to fall in spades ever again. So how can I bring that to you? How can I bring that dappled sunlight to the room that you're sitting in? And how can I bring, if you're a veteran, all of those visuals that bring you back and give you honor and give you the tribute? It was just Veterans Day this week. I just really feel like there are so many opportunities to give people, and one another, that connection and across the generations. Like, why can't we have, I love some of these organizations like Sweet Readers that brings middle schoolers into long-term care or to neighbors or, Al's buddies, which started at where I went to college, Boston College. They started, now there are many universities, and it brings college students into the homes of people that are living with dementia, because that story and that it's the oral tradition, right? If you can bring that and share that, I think that we really do gain greater empathy. So the talk of diversity and inclusion, that's real inclusion. Real inclusion is being part of someone's story and hearing what's in their heart and giving them that moment and the ability to reflect and to share with you. Because believe me, older adults have so much to share. They're my favorite people, just because I feel like even as a little girl, I had such a large extended family. I just wanted to hear about it. I wanted to hear about what you did and how you did it and where you went, and all the fun things that that made you and brought you to me now. So that's I think it sounds like we're all in the business of making connection and really sharing habilitative means and joy, really just to give one another moments of joy.
I hear the art in the way, the dappled sunshine. One time, for a few hours, I was able to go into the Met, the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York City, Manhattan. And when you said never to walk, I don't spend that much time in museums, but to just have that word never attached. And you have created many books. What I heard was a title of a book, Protected to Death, earlier in what you were saying. So could you just talk about, we got to hear earlier before we went live, but we got to hear about the type of books and the reasons why. Could you just bring that up again?
Sure. So Protected to Death was done by a group, a national group that is an advocacy group that talks about, the legislation on the federal level to have the essential caregiver given, regardless of contagion, regardless of where we are with the pandemic or any future health crises like those, to give people that are the essential caregiver, that are not visitors. These are people that go in, a mother, a daughter, a husband, who go in and ready the person, let's say, for the evening and help them with their activities of daily living and so forth. So that book, regarding being protected to death, is a national publication. I can give you that information, Christy, so you can disseminate that at a later date. But that's something that really, in my state, Connecticut, every legislator signed on, which is wonderful, because if we can get that to be the norm across the country, we won't. The staffing shortages are just so crippling right now that the essential caregiver, the family caregiver, is more important than ever, today now than more than ever. And then regarding my books are compilations of art and literature, and I can kind of show you a picture. This one has to do with, let's say, birds, because people love birds, and this and so just to give you an example, there is large format poetry that you can read aloud to someone who is, let's say, non-ambulatory, who is nonverbal, or someone who just likes to sit and listen. You can do a picture walk. Here's one. I'll just show you. So that's late stage. But for early stage, there's one for veterans. Early stage, you can read this yourself and enjoy these yourself. And every branch of the military is represented. So there's representation. All of my books have total representation, regardless of, your family status, your cultural background, your people really lean into faith and religion. So regardless of your faith, I've got books that are faith-based. Judaica, I've got Christianity, non-denominational Christianity, Catholicism, all types of beautifully rendered jewel boxes of art and literature, regardless of your race, your ethnicity, your I've got books for the LGBTQ community. Generation Silent. So it's just the gamut, but it is absolutely, like Dr. Nathan was saying, a labor of love. It's just, I feel the way he does. I want to give people the sense that they can, they will, and they've got the tools.
Yes.
Nancy Baki, you were driving through the snow in Montreal, and you have arrived at your office safely. I'm good with that. I'm
Thank
really
you.
good.
I
And
appreciate you guys.
been listening. I want to thank Ravi Bala for also putting in his thoughts today, along with others who are coming in on this Wednesday. This Wednesday after the U.S. had lots and lots of people watching elections, and earlier, did I remember correctly, Nancy, that you were saying you're just sick of everyone going recession? It's coming. It's going to happen. So let's get into our recession shroud and start recess. I'm putting words in your mouth.
No, you're right. And actually, before I even go there, Christine, I just want to say you guys are awesome. Even though I don't know all four of you, Dr. Nathan, Dr. Lord, Lorette, and Peter, you guys are all just amazing people. You're all blessings to this world because, the pandemic, we've got two sides of it, right? We've got the tragedy, but we've got like the good part of it. I really look at a lot of the good. I kind of put the okay, people passed away. It's just what happened, right? People got sick. It's what happened. But now let's look at the good. Whoever's still here in this world, you guys are doing what needs to be done to help them stay in this world. And I love what Dr. Nathan said. And I think it was it Peter? Because I was driving. I think it was you, Peter, that was saying about the 20-year-olds. Like, I love it because, yes, at 20, God, at 15, they need to think about this. Even though, yes, they're thinking about school and all that, they need to think about how to eat well, how to, exercise. Because just like Lorette, you were talking about your son being stuck in an office, like that is screwing this whole world of the social, of the mental health, of the, let's have friends, and like it is removing that. And we got to bring that back. We got to do, things like all these events that you guys are doing, bringing people face to face, not just the Zoom. People are getting tired of Zoom. So I will continue praying for all four of you, well, all five of you, Christine as well, because we need more of you guys. And I believe you guys should put an event together. I know you guys don't know each other, all of you, but put an event together. You guys will, call it a 2-day, maybe even 3-day event on just giving value, because I'll put my teenagers on that call just to hear it. Even if they don't, it's that teenager thing or the 20-year-old, they need to hear it now, and as you guys were talking, I think of my parents, 70 and 75. If it wasn't for them exercising every day and taking their walks of 5-10 kilometers a day and going to Florida, when it's winter over here, because it's, in Quebec here, like when it's winter, you hibernate, like go to Florida and stop hibernate. Like we need more of that. So I just want to commend all of you guys, and I can't wait to talk to you guys. And for me, it's this recession thing that I've been hearing the last like 2-3 months. That like I hear it every day. I'm like, can you guys stop talking about the recession? Like we're just talking it and putting it into this world. Like we can prevent this recession if we do something now. Like I read something, a recession in a year from now. What are you talking about in a year from now? Like, do you know how much stuff that we could do in the next year? We just got to do it, right? So I believe, the pandemic brought a lot of businesses. Like, I'm not sure, I don't know you guys, so forgive me, but a lot of new businesses have come into the world, we'll call it, and they've brought their passions and their struggles and whatever they've learned. And like, Dr. Lord, with your husband, you brought something that you've experienced. It's not like, oh, you know what, today I feel like helping those with dementia. No, you actually really lived it. And that's really important for the world to hear, because it's not just, oh yeah, come over here and come over here and come and learn this. It's really your story, and everybody needs to share their story. But coming back to here is, yeah, I help businesses basically. I don't want them to think about recession. I want them to think of, let's see how we could increase your revenue and profit. No matter what you do, as long as you have a problem, the prospect has a problem, and you have a solution to that problem, we'll find those people that need you. It's not just leads. It's not just people are going to buy from you. It's they have an issue and you have a solution. Let's go find them. They are sitting somewhere looking for you, right? So I have a passion in taking businesses from wherever they are to wherever they want to be, and not just where they want to be, but where they want to take their clients and their prospects. Because there's a lot of people in this world, like you said, Dr. Lord, there may not be a cure for dementia, but there are things that they can do. And if the world doesn't know about all these things, if the world doesn't know, like Dr. Estrada, like go out there at 20 years old and start exercising and start, mental health. I mean, it's been going crazy for the last 2 years. Let's just teach the world what we need to teach. Let's go find those people that have those problems and find them that solution that you have. So anytime that you guys want to connect with me, connect on LinkedIn. I'd love to support you guys as much as I can. My passion is to take businesses, not just to go and spend money on marketing, because people think that they have to go and spend so much money on marketing to reach your people. You don't. There's a lot of no-cost strategies that you could utilize, organic things. I mean, we are in an era where it's all about relationship and education. I say, if you don't like those two things, get out of your business and go get a job, because there's a lot of jobs out there that are needing people, right? But it's true, right? It's really true. But when you have this passion in what you do, there's so much that you could do in just letting people know who you are. They'll find you. If you're out there, if you're doing your SEO and your blogging and, all these things that people say, oh, blogging is old school. It's not. People still read. Go put videos out. Go educate. Give little nuggets. Give a little tip here and there, because people are always listening to you. Even if you don't think they are, they are.
Each one of you has identified something that is missing or something that is being missed. So Peter, with all of his broadcasting, there are chunks that can't be part of that realm. And he has pulled in on his podcasts, been able to stretch, and if I can say, delve deeper. I keep hearing the word delve lately. I like words. To be able to stretch this out more and be able to explain it. Nathan, you said earlier that, did I remember correctly? Because I do get things mixed up and I'm just always so excited about everything because I'm the aging enthusiast. Did you say that there was a personal reason that you became Nimble Science?
Yeah, I mean, it really comes down to my grandfather, Edwin Martin, who was a mentor of mine. He was a country western bootmaker for 72 years, World War II vet as a field paramedic. And a lot of what I learned growing up was with him, sitting next to him in the boot shop and learning about quality of work and what that meant to be a man and a good human being. He ended up falling, and he fell on his little farmland where his boot shop was, and someone drove by and saw his hand up in the air because he lived in the middle of nowhere. And so if someone hadn't seen his hand, he would have died there. So they came by, they helped him, but that started a small brain bleed. And that small brain bleed, he fell a few more times, ended up taking his life. And I look back, and it's like, most falls are preventable. Anyone can improve their balance. It's never too late to start. There was nothing for him. He was in rural Colorado where there is no healthcare. There is no prevention. How do we reach people who historically have been unreached? And we looked at it, 88% of older adults today have a smart device, and they use it daily. Right? We don't have to have people travel 50 miles for a balance class. They can do it in their own home. And so that was really the premise of that was my family has a different narrative. We don't get to spend time with my grandfather at Christmas. And that shouldn't be part of anyone's narrative. Something that's wholly preventable. Yeah. And it's just a matter of we've been trying to solve this problem by yelling at older adults to do things. And no one responds well to that. And we decided just to do the opposite of going, hey, let's do something you want instead. And so I look back, and a lot of my work is based on, what could have helped my grandfather not have that family narrative. And, I'm proud that we're making some good work. We could do better, but we're doing some good work already. But that's where that comes from. And everyone that actually works with me has a similar story. Frankly, we could ask anyone on this call, have you had a loved one fall? Most of us can relate to that.
Nathan, I think it's really fascinating what you say, and this is coming through from everyone, is that in big part, it is all about telling stories, and you're all telling stories now. And I think we're all going to go away from this inspired by what others have said on this call, just hitting bullet points that we maybe hadn't thought about before. Nathan talking about nursing homes and steps and balance and the minutiae that you got into there, I think is really interesting. And Nancy, what you were saying, you referred to 15-year-olds and getting through to that generation. And I think bigger picture, the challenge for all of us is figure out how to tell these stories in a way that 15-year-olds and the 25-year-olds and then the 35-year-olds will actually listen and learn, because my bet is that not many 15-year-olds are watching this or are likely to watch this. So the challenge for us is to figure out how to get to those people and to talk in the kind of appropriate language that makes the message understandable. And Christine, I think it was you said earlier, often it is said to younger people, enjoy it while you can, enjoy your school years, enjoy your college years while you can. That is ageist language. That is implying that when you're older, you're not going to enjoy life. And you can go to school when you're 75 and enjoy it. It isn't just something that's going to happen when you're 15, but you need to nurture your life through exercise and diet, primarily, they're at the top of the list, to make sure that you're in the physical and mental condition, optimizing it so that you can enjoy life in later years. And it is Christine, you said you like words. It is all about the very careful use of words. And I know, Christine, you listened to one of my recent podcasts where I was talking to a guest about this phrase, when you talk to an older person, ask them how old they are, and they say, I'm 70 years young. That is an ageist response, because you are old. I'm 60 years old and proud of it and enjoying it. Being old, and that's the message you've got to try to get through to a 15-year-old. Ask a child how old they are. They don't say, I'm 10 years young. I'm still 10 years old. Old has to be a word that doesn't have the stigma attached to it that so many people, including people in the longevity sphere or space, use, because we're brought up that way to think that old is negative, and that is a huge challenge for me. And so how do you get that message across? And I think getting through to the teenagers, we've got to use TikTok, we've got to use Instagram stories, we've got to use the technology of today that younger people are using to tell these stories in a way that it's relatable, and that is not easy, but I think that is how. It's all very well to say you've got to get through to these generations, then the next part is, well, how do you do that? And I think a big part of it is by embracing the technology that younger generations are using. And also, don't say, oh, I'm old, I can't figure this keyboard, I can't figure this, I can't do this. Don't be self-deprecating when you're older, and don't imply that because you're old you can't use technology, because you can.
Yes, I can tap all over things. I can get in trouble. I call myself a techno toddler because I'm like, beep, 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 beep. Oh, I just ended up talking to Cherry and Jacob, who goes, oh, we can get back into the room this way. What you did was such and such. It's okay. It's happened before. I'm like, okay. Just giving yourself grace and giving other people grace and just going, hey, you did what people do. They get something new and they're trying to figure it all out. Be curious. A lot of people are like, wow, I'm a chief curiosity officer. Just give it a try. And if that is the only stumbling and falling, and I'm thinking about Nathan, if that's the only stumbling and falling that you do is that someone goes, hey, you've been contacting me too much. It's like, okay, I can give myself grace on because I contact people way too much. It's a little more than they wanted. I am super grateful for each one of you. I am very, very intentionally thanking my husband right now, who not only put into the chat column about protecting them to death, but he also makes all of this possible because I do much better with people than I do with people and tapping on things, because then you'd all disappear. The first person who came to the table today was Etel. So Etel, would you please sign us out with just something that you would like to say about this gathering that we've had, that apparently Nancy wants it to happen in person. And I love that. Etel, would you just sing us out of this wonderful time that we've had?
Well, thank you very much, Christine. Thank you, everyone. You've made my day. It's wonderful. I want to leave you with one story that applies to what we all talked about this morning. And it's the fact that this is a true story that happened to my husband. He was worried at one time when we went to Boston for a test. He asked the doctor, he said, "How long do I have to live?" And the doctor said to him, "When you're alive, please live. And when you're dead, please be dead." So we need to really live to the fullest every moment. All we have, folks, is this moment. It's not yesterday. It's not tomorrow. Yesterday is like a canceled check. Tomorrow is like a promissory note. But today is cash in hand. Please spend it well. Thank you.
That was amazing.
Yes, thank you.